So wonderful good evening to everyone. I'm Harald Enzmann and I'm just a guest tonight because on this third of our webinars, it will be up to Martin Norta, our head of product management at BfArM and quite experienced with centralized procedure, to go in the challenging topic, how centralized procedures work from a procedural part of view. So not the scientific content, but rather how do we do it work, how can we make it work, how do we make it work, so that in the end we have a regulatory decision and in the good case a marketing authorization or an extension, additional indication whatsoever. So into those procedural parts, Martin, the ball is over to you. Please, Martin.
Thank you, Harald, and thank you, Caroline. Glad to be here this evening. Dear colleagues, welcome to the session number 3 in the pilot education program. Please note that the views and opinions in the following presentation are those of the presenter. They should not be attributed to the BfArM or to the European Medicines Agency. I am employed by a regulatory agency and I have no conflict of interest to declare. So much for the disclaimer. Timelines, yes. Harald Enzmann and Sabine Meyerhofer have previously presented on the European network and on the European committees at the EMA. Then Paolo Foggi gave an introduction to the Scientific Advice Working Party. Today, I will lead you through the timetable and procedural steps of the centralized procedures. This is the agenda. The key points will be the initial application, the accelerated assessment, extension applications, and the variation procedure, just for a brief introduction. The main timetable in the centralized marketing authorization procedure is that of a full application. This means it contains the complete set of clinical studies and non-clinical studies after years of research and development. This type of application is filed under Article 8.3 of the Directive 2001/83, and we will put the spotlight on this one today. Once the pharmaceutical company has completed their research and development, and if their product is eligible for the centralized procedure, they may submit an application for marketing authorization to the EMA in Amsterdam. The electronic application will first be validated for technical compliance and for technical completeness. If the application is incomplete or if it does not fit in the electronic document management system, it is deemed invalid. The applicant is then advised to correct the deficiencies, and the validation has, however, no impact on the outcome of the scientific evaluation. However, a deficient dossier is not efficient and it consumes valuable resources, which we don't have. Therefore, submissions of insufficient quality may be refused by the EMA in the future, and in the future legislation also, as it is the FDA's practice already now. After the validation is completed, the application is forwarded to the procedure management. That's more my area. What happens next? A dedicated product team is set up early for each medicinal product to be submitted to the EMA for the centralized procedure. Generally, the project manager is responsible for questions related to the administration, including timetables and documents. The supervising product lead will instead be responsible for the regulatory support to the applicant and to the EMA scientific committees. The product team, they provide advice, produce, support, plan, conduct, manage. You can see they are very active, although they are more considered active in the background. The product lead, he or she only in certain cases comes in to facilitate the discussion in clarification meetings, oral explanations, and related questions. Their focus is more the content of the dossier, and they will provide direct input to and from the EMA committees. Let's now move to the timetable that the games begin. On day 0, the product team will communicate the start of the procedure to all involved parties. At this time point, the assessors enter the first evaluation phase, which takes 80 days. The CHMP rapporteur and the co-rapporteur both lead a team of scientific assessors who independently review the documentation. As the massive documentation contains thousands of pages on the quality, safety, and efficacy of the work is shared within the agency. Sometimes the rapporteurs even lead a multinational team of experts with experts from other national competent agencies and also with experts from academia. The assessment team will liaise with each other and with their CHMP member about the progress of the evaluation. At certain points, they will get together for project meetings to share their preliminary results and to discuss procedural questions. During the time, the experts will receive administrative support from the CHMP member secretariats at national level. The National Procedure Management provides the relevant documentation and templates. The latter contain clear guidance for assessors on the content and the methodology, and they were just recently strongly improved by the EMA. I copied a bit of the paperwork in this presentation, and you will find the related templates also on the EMA's homepage. On day 80, the rapporteur's assessment report is shared with the co-rapporteur and the other CHMP members and the PRAC. In parallel, the PRAC rapporteur and co-rapporteur have assessed the company's risk management plan. That risk management plan describes the way important risks will be minimized or managed and how more information will be obtained after approval, for example, through post-authorization safety studies. The related PRAC assessment report is reviewed by all PRAC members until day 100. Also, by day 100, the CHMP's other member states are asked to provide their comments on the CHMP rapporteurs and co-rapporteurs assessments, which may still deviate in certain points at that time. It is then around day 110 that the peer review team will invite the rapporteurs and the co-rapporteurs and the supporting teams for a peer review teleconference, where the complementary and sometimes still controversial viewpoints are consolidated. For the first time in the procedure, a single draft assessment report and a common list of questions are prepared by that conference. On day 120, that draft will be discussed and finalized in the CHMP plenary meeting. That's the first one. And the most important difference to the previous assessment reports is that the day 120 assessment report contains the official position of the CHMP, but no longer the individual or national viewpoints. Also on day 120, the clock will be stopped. But what does this mean? Not everybody is familiar with the procedure. The clock stop is the time for the applicant to respond to the list of questions. It is normally set to 3 to 6 months, but more than necessary, but frequently it may be extended on request. To prepare the response, the applicant's cross-functional expert team will rectify deficiencies of the initial data package. This includes, among many others, the revision of clinical endpoints, target populations, safety profile, and the standard of care. But also pharmaceutical issues and the product information for patients and healthcare professionals are revised. The submission of the applicant's response to the EMA will trigger the restart of the clock. If this is early, then it puts the system under pressure. However, if the applicant submits his response ahead of the schedule, the clock will also be restarted ahead of the schedule. So consider the whole assessment team is on summer vacation, which means not present. This is when the project manager has the theater for himself, but to his regret, he cannot play the stage alone without the assessors. So he will need to find a solution quickly and communicate to everybody. Anyway, the rapporteur and the co-rapporteur must evaluate the applicant's responses and share their updated assessment reports and the list of outstanding issues with all CHMP members and with the applicant on day 150. The updated assessment report and list of questions are circulated then for comments and to be discussed at the next plenary meeting, which takes place on day 180. Only in very rare cases, all issues are resolved here and the procedure can be closed with a positive opinion. Normally, a further round and list of outstanding issues follows, and another clock stop will be necessary, but this time for 30 days only. On day 181, the clock will be restarted. If this cycle needs to be repeated for critical benefit risk issues, in exceptional cases, the next clock stop will be addressed as day 100 plus X when it's getting complicated. And the next restart will be on day 181 plus X. This is where the X stands for the number of extra cycles. At a certain point, the CHMP may end the procedure and decide on a negative or opinion. Each cycle will need to be justified by an unmet medical need that was identified, but major deficiencies prevent the granting of marketing authorization. All deficiencies must be removed before a positive opinion can be drawn on proper scientific evidence. In cases where the report is still unfavorable on day 180 and a refusal is in sight, there's one means that can be applied. It's an oral explanation to the CHMP that may be requested by the applicant. This is to make sure that all relevant evidence and reasoning were exchanged and adequately considered. For specific questions, additional experts, even patient representatives and healthcare professionals can be called together in a scientific advisory group or an ad hoc expert group meeting. They will discuss open issues, which are usually related to the use of the medicine in clinical practice, and they will provide their report directly to the committee. Once the responses to the outstanding issues are conclusive for the CHMP and the PRAC rapporteurs, the assessment report will be updated and foreseen for adoption in the next CHMP meeting. This is on day 210, and the finale, where the CHMP adopts the scientific opinion of the application. What is the meaning of opinion? The opinion is equal to a recommendation to the European Commission on whether or not the marketing authorization shall be granted. It specifies if post-approval measures shall be conducted or if conditions apply, and the committee will also agree on the wording of the common product information for healthcare professionals and patients. Normally, this means that translations of the product information are submitted and the Commission decision is prepared. But on the EMA homepage, you can find the related literature and timetables for that procedure. And after the introduction, you may be able to easily identify the key points where the assessors have their moment. In the first line, I hope you can read CHMP Rapporteur Assessment Report. That will be the assessment report on day 80. Further on the right, comments from CHMP that corresponds to the mentioned systematics, and the draft list of questions. And this will be adopted by the CHMP. In the second line, the system is a similar one. The CHMP rapporteurs joint AR, rapporteurs and co-rapporteurs joint AR assessment report will be circulated for comments from the CHMP. That's the second circle. The assessment report will be updated. That's where the assessors have their role. And then the updated assessment report will be adopted and for the next clock stop or the authorization. Third line, same. Rapporteurs, updated assessment report, comments from CHMP, update of assessment report, possible opinion, and fourth line, the same. This comprises the talk up to here in a briefer way and leads the focus of the assessors on their active role. You can even have that shorter. The day 80 assessment report, the day 120 assessment report, day 180, and the final assessment report with the opinion on day 210. This is the whole story in brief. However, in some cases, it's not that easy, and the CHMP opinion is unfavorable, and the application is refused. The applicant then has 15 days to analyze the situation and to write an appeal. In this case, the grounds for the appeal need to be submitted within 60 days, and the institution has another 60 days to do a reassessment. During the appeal, the same data set must be regarded as in the previous procedure, but the focus is clearly on the grounds as mentioned in the appeal letter. For the re-examination, a new team of rapporteurs and independent scientific advice group, so-called SAG members, will be appointed who were not involved in the previous procedure. It must be avoided at all to repeat the evaluation by the same assessors. This would be create a high bias, which is not possible in that system. Well, as said, formally the evaluation procedure takes a further 60 days, and the final opinion will be drawn by the CHMP on day 270 for being recommended to the Commission, marketing authorization or not. This is the end of the scientific evaluation procedure. And if the appeal was successful, then the next step will the Commission phase, where a marketing authorization is issued and published by the European Commission within 2 months time frame. The European Public Assessment Report, which you may know, follows another 2 weeks later with all relevant details about the procedure and the benefit risk. You can find that also on the EMA homepage. This is the main procedure and timeline for a pharmaceutical company to obtain a centralized marketing authorization, and also the timelines for assessors to contribute to that marketing authorization. Even if most re-examinations support the same conclusion, by the way, there are cases where the appeal is successful and the marketing authorization is granted. Such cases will be published. You may now ask, is there a fast-track procedure? Actually, the normal assessment of the dossier takes quite a long time, and patients are urgently waiting for innovative and medicinal products to be authorized. This seems a bit contradictory to the prolongation of the clock stop on request, but actually it is. To speed up the procedure, an accelerated assessment procedure is in place with an enhanced timetable. If an early entry is in the interest of public health, the timetable is cut down from 210 to 150 days, where the individual steps of the procedure are shortened and slightly differently arranged. However, the high criteria for the safety, efficacy, and quality are maintained. They will not be lowered. And to pursue this specific pathway, the applicant should submit a request for accelerated assessment at least 2 or 3 months prior to their submission. And the company better seek the EMA's and the committee's advice well before that in a pre-submission meeting. Many things are to be discussed then. To maintain the abbreviated timetable, the dataset of the application should be of high quality. Otherwise, namely, the CHMP may return the application to the standard timetable at any time during the procedure if major deficiencies or the need for a GCP or GMP inspection arise. For assessors, this is of course no change of the content, but only to the timetable. And if we compare to the FDA, the accelerated assessment comes close to the priority review in the USA, but should not be mixed up with the so-called accelerated approval by the FDA. Here you see the timetables during the course of the procedure for the accelerated assessment. On day 1, the start of procedure is communicated to all stakeholders, same we had before. Between day 1 and day 90, the CHMP rapporteurs and PRAC rapporteurs assessment reports and other members' comments and peer review are processed, which is normally in the full timetable done between day 1 and day 120. And already on day 90, the CHMP adopts the assessment report and list of questions, and the clock stops for 30 days. As before, only in very rare cases the application is immediately adopted. However, this is theoretically possible. Normally, the procedure is not deemed for such a smooth landing, and the further timetable depends on the list of questions, and the involvement of a scientific advice group may be necessary to clarify certain issues. Still, the procedure will be returned to the normal day 210 days timetable if an oral explanation is necessary. That also means that a refusal of the application is in sight. On day 91, the restart of the clock is triggered by the submission of the applicant's response, and the assessment report will be updated. Yes, on day 120, the CHMP adopts the updated assessment report and the list of outstanding issues for a second clock stop. That one is possible, but equally, applicants may submit their responses at any time without prior notice. Also, as in the first one, the procedure may be turned to the normal standard timetable of 210 days in the second clock stops. After the submission of responses, which means on day 121, responses will come in and the CHMP and PRAC assessment reports are updated for these written responses in view of the upcoming plenary meeting, where on day 150, the CHMP adopts the final scientific opinion. We had a bit of decision-making by the Commission and already said that the opinion of the CHMP equals to a recommendation to the European Commission on whether or not a marketing authorization shall be granted, and if specific conditions or post-authorization measures apply. The committee will also agree on the wording of the common product information for healthcare professionals and patients. And the European Commission, but not the EMA, is the authorizing body for all centrally authorized products. And the decision is to be issued within 67 days of receipt of the EMA's recommendation. If you check the community register, you can see all results, all outcomes of all centrally authorized marketing authorization products. You will find all Commission decisions on authorization, variation, renewal, and other procedures in this register, which is sorted by name of the product or name of the active substance, or it also can be searched by the product number. This is a valuable source for information. What happens now that you have a marketing authorization, whether the normal way or the accelerated way? If you need a new strength or dosage form, marketing authorization holders do that sometimes, that they wish to apply or implement a new strength, dosage form, a new route of administration. And that poses fundamental alterations to that authorization and is therefore considered extension application, as it means that in some cases a new marketing authorization is required. It will then processed in analogy to the parent procedure, but with a clear focus on the amended or added changes. In some cases, it may be arbitrary. It may be a point for discussion whether variation or new marketing authorization is the right way. But there's clear guidance available by the Commission and by the EMA. Extension applications, the timetables for them and the guidance, it would be redundant, very redundant to go through the timetable again. The system seems familiar now, I guess. So let's do a next step into the variations area. What are variations and what about variations? The life cycle of a medicinal product requires numerous post-approval activities. Several changes to the dossier will be necessary during the life cycle, and they are considered variations to an existing marketing authorization. These variations include changes to the dossier and to the product information, for example, also to the manufacture and test procedures, or to the safety and efficacy, or to the therapeutic indications and the risk management plan. Last but not least, administrative details of the whole, for example, names, addresses, and so on, are considered minor changes. The Regulation 123/2008 foresees 3 categories for variations in view of their impact on existing marketing authorizations. Step 1 is comparably easy. It is do and tell. Minor issues are of mainly administrative nature and can be done already without approval. Step 1b are minor variations, which need to be assessed by the rapporteur, that's true, before they are implemented. However, there's something special with them. They need to be evaluated and approved by the network, but they are still considered minor changes. They have a timetable consisting of 30 days for the agency, then 30 days for the applicant to respond to the list of questions, and thereafter the rapporteur decides within another 30 days if the variation is approved or not. The variation is, however, implicitly approved if the timeline is failed by the rapporteur. That was a new thing to be was introduced by the regulation 1234/2008. However, there's a third category. Type 2 variations are full variations. They need normally a full assessment and timetable of 60 days because there are significant changes and new data to the marketing authorization. The scope may range from clinical studies or indications to amended marketing, manufacturing and test procedures or new risk management plans. These variations are deemed necessary to be evaluated by the rapporteur and the network within 60 days, which may be restricted to 30 days in case of high urgency. But an extended timetable of 90 days will also be possible, but in case the data set is extensive or the assessment is very complex. A draft assessment report will be drawn up by a specified expert team, depending on the scope of that variation, preclinical, clinical, quality. The assessment report and possibly a request of supplementary information, that is the term for list of questions in the context of variations, will be circulated for comments and adopted by the CHMP. The clock will then be stopped for the applicants to resolve the request for supplementary information, and the clock will be restarted after the submission of the response that we know. Eventually, the variation is adopted and followed by a commission decision. Yes, also a commission decision for variations. Regarding the timetables, similar you will find here on the EMA home page. The commission decision, even for variations, that's something special. Upon receipt of a favorable CHMP opinion, the Commission shall amend the existing marketing authorization. So we recognize variations are grave to the marketing authorization. And the Commission decision shall be granted within 2 months, at least for certain variations, which are very important. For example, variations related to the addition of new therapeutic indications or modifications of existing ones, variations for the addition of new contraindications, variations related to changed posology, changes also to the active substance of a seasonal or pre-pandemic or pandemic vaccine. All other type 2 variations, and there is a long list of variations, which we call the classification guideline. You can find it under that term on the internet, are to be finalized within a 12 months time scheme. Well, at the beginning, the agenda was a bit shorter than the wrap-up. We promised to provide an introduction to the initial application. In this case, we used the full application as an example. We extended on the accelerated assessment for innovative medicines and extension applications for new strength, dosage form, or route of administration, and the variations 1A, 1B, and 2. The procedural steps for all these together. Validation, I named only in the initial one, but not in the latter ones. However, all applications need to be validated. Templates, yes, there are also templates for all these procedures necessary and provided by the EMA. The review timeline is fixed, but may also be varying according to the specific situations. An oral explanation may be necessary or useful in case the application has a negative outcome in sight, to help clarify that all relevant information was exchanged and no misunderstanding is in the room. Also, the appeal and re-examination is a means to make sure that no misunderstanding is in the way. However, the decision, the opinion is normally or most frequently confirmed and not overturned after an appeal. And the decision-making process. We can go into more detail next time, but this shall suffice for today. I kept it brief by intention. Hopefully this talk has contributed a bit to your understanding of the different procedures and roles in the framework of the European Marketing Authorization and Maintenance business. There is plenty of information on the internet, which will help you understand it, but also very precise guidance at the EMA. So I will end for now. Thank you very much for your attention, and please don't hesitate to ask questions now or write later if questions arise.